tetragrammaton.
It was December of 1967, and we were invited to go to Paris to do a UNICEF show, United Nations Children's Emergency Fund. And on that show was Marlon Brando and his Tahitian bride and a couple of dancers and stuff.
Wow.
Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton.
Wow.
He did How to Handle a Woman, and she would parade across the stage with these signs.
Incredible. This is 67?
December of 67.
Incredible.
Well, the curtain opened for our part of the show. There was Maharishi in the front row with John Lennon on one side and George Harrison on the other. I said, holy shit, that's a fucking front row for
Good
you.
audience.
And that beautiful orchestra. We just did a few songs. And then the after party, Marlon Brando turns to me and he says, want to get some breakfast? I mean, it's very Marlon Brando. I mean, it was the real deal. And I'm thinking, Michael out of the Beach Boys, Marlon Brando, Viva Zapata, on the waterfront and everything is asking if I want to go for breakfast. What am I going to say? You know?
That's wild.
So we did. And he had a Cadillac, and this is in December in Paris, a Cadillac convertible pull up and a few cabs, and he invited I and a couple of other group members and their wives. He invited us all to go to this after party, which was given by these bejeweled ladies in these gowns, and Victor Borga and the producer of the show were sitting at a table. Marlon went into the room, and this woman spread-eagled herself across the door. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, it's a private party. And Marlon Brando looks at her and says, oh man, I'm really sorry. He said, in Tahiti, when one person goes, everyone goes. It's like family. I think I better leave. And he turns as if to leave the party, right? And that's Liz and Dick over there. So she was going to lose Marlon Brando. She couldn't have that. So she let us in, and his Tahitian bride and the guy playing the guitar, and it really made the party, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was amazing.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah, and then the next day, in the afternoon, late afternoon, it was dark already, so he's in the lounge of the airline, and I sat next to him on the flight to England. I went to England, and he invited us to go to a party there, and we, of course, here we go again. Marlon Brando invited us to go somewhere, so we did go, and that was the last time I, personally was in his presence. But
Yeah.
when he turned and did that Lee Strasberg turn, saying, "Well, I think I better leave," it was pure Marlon. I mean, and he was such a great guy because he needed that.
Was he a little older than you at the
A
time?
little bit, yeah,
5 years maybe?
probably.
Yeah. I'm just trying to picture what it felt like.
Yeah.
Did he feel like an elder statesman or not really?
Oh yeah, no, to me, he sure did.
Yeah.
He's like, he was just an amazing actor, of course, and a great guy because he was for the Black Panthers. He didn't take the Oscar because of his Native American situation.
Yeah.
So he was really solid citizen. I mean,
Unbelievable.
it impressed me anyway.
Then when did Maharishi teach you to meditate?
Okay, so we got to England. Then I get a call from Dennis Wilson, who was our drummer.
Yeah.
And he said, you got to come back to Paris. I said, why? I like England. I like London, He says, well, Marishi's going to teach us to meditate. Are you sure? So he called back again. I said, yeah, it's for sure. Tomorrow afternoon at such and such a time, we have to bring fruit, flowers, and handkerchief. So we found some flowers on the way into the town after we flew back the very next morning from England to Paris. Now, because I had been interested in meditation, and I'd gone to a lecture at the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium by a guy named Jerry Jarvis, who was head of the Students International Meditation Society at the time, which was 1015 gaily in Westwood,
Mhm.
and a lot of people were taught there. In fact, I became a teacher of TM a couple of years later. I actually taught there in Westwood. I
Great.
taught maybe 100
I knew
people.
Jerry. I love Jerry.
Yeah.
Jerry was the coolest
Well,
guy.
genius, brilliant guy.
Yeah. He was sort of Maharishi's right-hand
He
man in those
was at one
days.
time. He carried the deerskin.
Yeah.
Deerskin. Yeah, he absolutely. So you'd met him.
Yeah. And he said he learned to fly a helicopter for Maharishi so he could take Maharishi around.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What was it like talking to Maharishi? What was the energy like?
Well, first of all, Maharishi is a Hindu monk. And Hinduism is so complicated and so diversified, he is what they call brahmachari, which means celibate, and their whole existence is devoted to enlightenment and God, right? And they have these scriptures, which I'm sure you know, called the Vedas. There's several Vedas, and there's all these codes of behavior in some of the Vedas. And so Maharishi was a student of Swami Brahmananda Saraswati, who was a Shankaracharya of Jyotirmath. And Shankar was a spiritual person a couple thousand years ago. I don't exactly know about it. I mean, I could look it up, but he established 4 seats of Shankara. Shankaracharya means seats of Shankara. So Shankara was this enlightened person who just, as a teenager, he could cognize, they call it cognizing, they could just put his attention on it and bring out the scriptures of the Vedas and stuff. So through time, the pure knowledge gets eroded. And so he came in at that particular time to clarify these Vedas. And so Gurudev was a Shankaracharya of Jyotirmath, which is in the north, in the Himalayas. There's 4 of them in different corners of India, but that seat had been vacant for about 150 years or something. But then Gurudev, Swami Brahmananda Saraswati, he took that office. It's like a pope.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a Hindu pope.
And Maharishi was with him for years and years?
Yes, he was a disciple of, and he used
Understood.
to run errands for him, and kind of like a secretary.
And then whose idea was it for Maharishi to spread the teachings?
Well, Maharishi came up with that after Gurudev passed away.
I see.
I was 11 years old when Gurudev died, so I never met him, but Maharishi decided to teach this. They call it deep meditation, and then they changed the name to transcendental meditation. After learning meditation in Maharishi, I went to a thing called the Science of Creative Intelligence, a 1-month course. So that was interesting. That was a precursor to, if you wanted to become a teacher of TM, you had to take the Science of Creative Intelligence course at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it's like right now, but that's what you had to do. So I was interested enough to say, well, this stuff works great, because as my cousins, they learned to meditate, but then they also were attracted to things like heroin, cocaine, uppers, downers, you name it, they do it.
Yeah.
Didn't always work out so great.
Mhm.
My cousin Dennis was under the influence of, in 1983 when he drowned, in the marina in LA. And then Carl, he started smoking when he was about 12, and he died of lung cancer about a little over 25 years ago.
Mm.
And my cousin Brian is well known for his mental challenges and stuff, but he would take anything and everything. Somebody thought they were turning him on to something great or something. So, it just really messed up his head.
Did you guys all learn to meditate together?
Carl, Alan, and myself, and Dennis, and our wives and or significant others at the time learned from Maharishi.
Mm-hmm.
I was invited by Maharishi. I went to go see him at the Harvard Law Forum in the Boston area, in Cambridge, right, Harvard. And I called his hotel, and he picked up the phone. I wanted to talk to somebody with Maharishi, but he picked up the phone and I said, this is Mike Love, Beach Boys. And he says, you coming to India? I said, are we invited? He says, yes, come to India. And so the other guys didn't go, but I did. And when I got there, I didn't know beforehand, but the Beatles were all there. And Ringo only stayed for a brief time. I don't know, about a week or 10 days or something, but George, John, and Paul stayed for quite a bit longer. And George Harrison and I both had our birthdays. He on February 25th, I on March 15th, so we're both Pisces. What's your birthday, buddy?
March 10th, Pisces.
Yeah, how about that? Anyway, so we had birthday parties and this and that, and the Beatles did a song called the Spiritual Regeneration Movement Foundation. I don't know if you can find it on your phone, but it's pretty.
I've never heard that.
The
How can that be?
Spiritual Regeneration Movement Foundation.
Let's see.
It's like it's fun or something. This is for my birthday. Spiritual Regeneration Movement Foundation. We'd like to thank you for everything, just for being our guide and line. We'd like to thank you for everything, just for being our third and line. Spiritual Regeneration Movement Foundation.
Harrison and Ringo Starr in India in 1968.
Wolfman Jack.
The song is a tribute to the Maharishi and his philosophy of transcendental meditation. And as a special birthday present, the Beatles sang this song for Mike. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Michael. Happy birthday to you.
That's pretty cool, huh?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Michael. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Michael love. Happy birthday, Michael love.
Sounds good.
Isn't that cool?
Oh, happy birthday, Michael love. Happy birthday, Michael love.
Michael Love.
Yeah. So they did that song for my birthday.
Wow. That was great. Unbelievable.
So much of today's life happens on the web. Squarespace is your home base for building your dream presence in an online world. Designing a website is easy, using one of Squarespace's best-in-class templates. With the built-in style kit, you can change fonts, imagery, margins, and menus, so your design will be perfectly tailored to your needs. Discover unbreakable creativity with Fluid Engine, a highly intuitive drag-and-drop editor. No coding or technical experience is required. Understand your site's performance with in-depth website analytics tools. Squarespace has everything you need to succeed online. Create a blog, monetize a newsletter, make a marketing portfolio, launch an online store. The Squarespace app helps you run your business from anywhere. Track inventory and connect with customers while you're on the go. Whether you're just starting out or already managing a successful brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create and customize a beautiful website. Visit squarespace.com/Tetra and get started today.
Tell me about the whole India experience.
Well, it was amazing because at that time, Maharishi would say, go and meditate as many hours as you're comfortable. So I might meditate for 6 or 8 hours or something. Prudence, dear Prudence, meditate for 2 or 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah, they had to go and get her. She took it very seriously. In fact, she has a doctorate in Sanskrit from the University of California at Berkeley. I mean, that's Mia Farrow's sister. Mia Farrow was there for a few minutes.
Prudence stayed for a long time.
She was way into it.
Wow.
She's one of the most prolific TM teachers and has been for many years. She's great. But anyway, it was just fascinating, meditating for several hours and then having Maharishi lecture every afternoon and evening too. So it was really a fascinating time. I wrote a poem one time. It goes, in the air above the Ganges, 150 down miles from the source of the Holy Mother River, Indian spiritual water, ripples seen 100 yards below are shining in the sun, reflecting through the eyes of one who feels as though he'd been there, or nearly so, a long, long time ago, before the nations rose and beat each other down, in which we stand, from which we've fallen, feel the need to find the key misplaced through lost time, to swing the rusted doors of a world of living room toward the light of nirvana. The key is found, it is at hand, and now men call it transcendental meditation.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
and you wrote that when you were there.
Mm-hmm. Just looking out over the river, feeling like I'd been there before or something.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
How long were you there for?
About a month and a half.
Wow, it's a long time.
Yeah, well, it was a 3-month thing.
Amazing.
And Maharishi said, you can stay and become a teacher and everything will become better after that. I didn't listen, so I left. And I got back and we rehearsed some for a tour we'd set up, mainly in the Mid-South. And we were on the balcony in Nashville when Martin Luther King got shot and killed. And the cities were all burning. And I'm thinking, Maharishi said if I'd have stayed and become a teacher, we would have missed all that. You know? Well, we had a tour booked, and so I thought that was what we should do.
And then have you kept a decent practice over the years?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I meditate every day.
Amazing.
If I don't, I'm not a happy person.
Yeah.
Because I just feel so much better having meditated
Beautiful.
than not.
Beautiful.
Plus, I dealt with stress, all the stresses being in a group, and
Of course.
my Uncle Murray, stealing money and recognition for
Of course.
my part of what I had to, what I did with the Beach Boys, which Brian is brilliant. He'd be able to sit down at the piano and come up with these tremendous chord changes and progressions and harmony meister. It's amazing. And I was more of a lyricist and conceptual guy. And because we wrote songs together, I'd end up singing the lead. Because, I'd say, hey, let's do the song about going back to the beach again. It's called Do It Again, right? And it went to #1 in England, but we were at the end of our tenure at Capitol Records, so they didn't try very hard. But it was a pretty big hit, But I would say something like, we did pretty good with Surfing USA, which is paraphrasing Sweet Little 16. Why don't we do rock and roll music? Top 5.
Yeah.
With all the competition going on, that's pretty good,
Yeah.
So
And your very first single was a hit, yes?
Surfing was our
That was
first
out of the
single.
box.
Yeah, and it went to #2 in LA and #1 in Minnesota, like just a few places.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a nationwide hit. It's not a Billboard kind of thing.
And it was also just on a little indie label, yes?
Exactly.
Mhm.
This guy was selling records out of the back of his car.
Yeah.
And Russ Regan, who became a very well-known head of record companies and stuff, we didn't know what to call ourselves. We called ourselves the Pendletones because of Pendleton
Shirts.
Mills. Yeah, the surfers all wear them over their T-shirt.
Yeah.
So Russ Regan said, well, it's called Surfing. What about the Beach Boys? I said, that's better than what we got. And so it stuck. So the second record to go on the air for was Surfing Safari in 1962. We took the photograph for the album cover at Paradise Cove of us on a little truck looking out to sea, you know.
Yeah.
That was,
Tell me about the world in 1961 when you guys started. What was the music scene like?
well, for us, I was listening to all kinds of R&B and blues and stuff like that. I liked the Kingston Trio too. In fact, Al Jardine and I both liked the Kingston Trio. He's the one that sat with Brian and said, here's the chords. We should do Sloop John B, which we did. That showed up on the Pet Sounds album.
Yeah. And that was a folk song, which was unusual for the Beach Boys.
It was unusual, but I like folk Kingston Trio.
Yeah.
And Al was into Kingston Trio and other people as well with that genre. And Brian did this brilliant track. I think we were in Japan touring. Brian decided to leave the touring group in November, I think it was, of 64.
Right
So-
at the beginning. You
Yeah,
were banned
well,
for 3 years.
Yes. So, in other words, there were two groups: the touring group,
In the studio.
which I've always been part of the touring group, and
Yeah.
really into promotions and venues. And I'd meet with the agency, and we'd decide what markets we're going to promote and which markets we'd be out of our minds to try and promote, because Ron Delsner would do New York City, and Barry Fay would do it Colorado, and the Belkins would do Cleveland. You'd be out of your fucking mind if you thought you were going to go and do anything in those places, because there were these little fiefdoms or whatever you call them. These, where the promoters were supreme.
They owned the town.
Eventually, yes, and they eventually became Live Nation.
Yeah.
Right, nice stock deal there.
So you avoided the big promoters and just did outside stuff?
No, we didn't avoid we did the big promoters where you had to.
Mm-hmm.
But there were places that were nearby or en route too, where you could go in and
It was like no man's land.
yeah, kind of, and it wasn't owned by anybody. They
Yeah.
were too small to deal with, I guess, maybe.
Yeah. No,
But
but
there
that's cool because that was real grassroots.
Totally. It was very cool. In fact, Canton and Akron, there were two theaters. There was a theater in each one. We did 2 shows a day here and 2 shows a day there. We'd go back and forth.
Wow.
It's like maybe 70 miles.
Wow. So
Do a
same
show.
day.
Yeah. But we'd have an opening act like we did Buffalo Springfield.
Amazing.
Yeah. There was one time in Alabama where the Rolling Stones were in their first tour of the U.S., and they came out and they did their thing, and we came on after them, and I said, yeah, it was pretty good. I said, but I think it's time to stand up for Alabama, which is the state motto, which I knew because I had a great-great-grandfather, according to the family Bible, that was a sheriff in Alabama before the Civil War. So that,
Wow.
that had to be
Going
a
way
very-
back.
That had to be a very colorful profession at that time.
Yes.
Imagine.
Are you the only Beach Boy to have played at every Beach Boy show in history?
I actually missed about 10 of them one year.
And what was the cause of that?
Exhaustion.
Yeah.
But the exhaustion was exacerbated by the fact that I decided I was going to fast.
I see.
I was going through a divorce situation with the mother of 2 of my kids, Haley and Christian. Christian sings with us now in the group, and he does a fantastic job on God Only Knows. He has perfect voice. He's similar timbre to Carl Wilson, which is a phenomenal singer.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Beautiful voice.
Yeah, did the lead on Good Vibrations, lead on God Only Knows, lead on Darlin', some really great songs.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I was going through this divorce. Not that I wanted to, but she was doing stuff that wanted to be free. That was Timothy Leary, tune in, turn on, and drop out.
Yeah.
So that works out for some people okay,
Yeah.
Some people do 100 acid trips and be fine. Other people it makes them crazy, or they think they can fly. But once I learned meditation, I said, well, first of all, my throat's not dry and I don't feel hungover or sketchy after a while, so you have to get high again. I feel clearer and I'm relaxed. And I just made the decision to just stay with that rather than all the other stuff. Because there was weirdness going on.
Do you do it first thing in the morning when you wake up?
Yeah, I shower and usually meditate first thing.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, we've got to make a plane and then I'll meditate on the plane.
Planes are great to meditate. You could do long ones.
I think so.
Yeah, the time just passes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me about what motivated the fasting. You said you were going through a hard time, and that's an interesting choice.
If you read the Old Testament and Methuselah and all these guys, they would fast for 40 days and 40 nights. I said, okay, so why don't I try that? I think it was an escape from the reality of having to go through this thing, which I didn't really want to go through.
Yeah.
And I'd been meditating. I was thinking, cut 2 beautiful kids and stuff. And I said, this ain't cool. And so I think it was a reaction to maybe that will help me cope with or comprehend what was going on.
Yeah.
So I did it. And for about the first week, I just did juice, tea, and water. That was it for 3 weeks. But it made me so sensitive and wired at the same time. So I took a few days off, and Brian actually had been, that was something like around 1969. So Brian had been off of touring for a couple of years, but he came back and subbed for me for
That's really interesting.
But that was the only time that I ever missed.
That's interesting, though, that he came back to sub for you.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
But did it always feel like it was the family band, like your family with the Wilsons and Al?
It was Brian's friend.
Brian's friend.
Yeah.
So
went to high school
did it
together.
always feel like a family operation pretty much the whole time?
Well, it absolutely was. Matter of fact, the first time I remember Brian singing was on Grandma Wilson's lap, singing Danny Boy, when he was maybe 10.
Wow.
So I might have been 11.
Yeah.
My mom was a Wilson, Emily Lee Wilson. She was sister to Murray Wilson, who was Brian Dennis Carl's father. And it was all about music in the Wilson situation. The brothers sang in a quartet. My mom sang in high school a trio, Madame Butterfly, in a light opera. And she would wake us up to go to school to opera music. Maria Callas, Ronaldo Tibaldi, and all these. And that was incredible, having to wake up in the morning. That will get you out of the house. So, but if we turned on the hi-fi set to even halfway on rock and roll, that was a bad thing, according to her. Anyway, every birthday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, you name it, we would get together musically, and we would literally rehearse Christmas carols. And if we walked by the Coleman's house, they were Jewish, we would lay something light on them, like Jingle Bells. Then we'd do, old little town of Bethlehem down the street. So, it was always about music, though. Always.
And it sounds like always about harmony, because the hymns were harmony.
Exactly. Brian and I and my sister Maureen, who played harp on a couple of early records, we would go to Wednesday night youth night at Angeles Mesa Presbyterian Church and sing the songs they had us sing there. Then on the way home, we'd do 3-part harmony in our Everly Brothers.
What does it feel like when you're singing harmony with other people with good voices and you find your part? Tell me what that experience is.
Well, it's not only the parts, but as you know, it's the blend. The thing that distinguished the Beach Boys musically from so many other groups is sing harmonies. They can sing 2 parts, they can sing 3 parts. A few sing 4 parts, but it's the blend in addition to singing the part. So the idea was that we sang with many people over the years. I mean, because Brian and Carl and myself could blend really well together. Dennis, not so much. His voice was rougher. It was fine for a lead, but it didn't blend like that beautiful celestial blend that the Beach Boys were known for. Alan Jardine could blend, yeah. And so right now we have a guy who's our musical director for our live band, who was 18 years with the 4 Freshmen.
Wow.
A recent incarnation, obviously, not the originals, but those guys were amazing in terms of their blend and the fantastic harmonies that they did. Yeah. So we did this filming of a get-together at Paradise Cove for the documentary the Disney Plus just
The
did.
new documentary.
And we sang The Heart's Full of Spring, 4 parts right there
Wow.
on the beach.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't in the documentary,
Yeah.
but we did that, and
yeah.
we sang some other songs too, Surf and
Fantastic.
Safari.
Yeah.
Hearts Were Full of Spring, though, was 4 parts a cappella. No track, no
And
nothing.
when you sing together, do you feel it become one thing?
Yeah, that's the beauty of the blend. You sublimate your individuality to create the group sound.
And do you discuss in advance, like when to breathe, or
That comes naturally, I think, according to the, how the song's structured, I always sang the bass part, the lower part.
Mhm.
I don't have volume, but I have resonance.
Yeah. And I imagine you have to sing it the same way every time because otherwise the parts won't work. So you basically learn your part and you play your part exactly right, and
Has to
everyone does it together.
Yeah, you can't be fucking around. Like some people think, well, can't you pick up musicians to play? Can't do that.
Yeah.
No, our songs are so structured.
Yeah.
In order to do them well, you have to replicate them as close to the record recording as possible.
The human foot is a true marvel of engineering. With 26 bones, 33 joints, and over 100 muscles and tendons, it's built for flexibility, balance, and natural movement. Unfortunately, today's narrow, rigid, elevated shoes undermine this natural brilliance and weaken your feet. Vivo barefoot shoes set your feet free. Feel every step. Move naturally. Allow your feet to function as nature intended with Vivo barefoot. Thin, flexible soles to keep you connected to the ground. Wide toe boxes to let your toes spread and stabilize. Minimalist shoes designed to mimic the barefoot experience. Whether you're running, hiking, or just going about your day, Vivo Barefoot has you covered precisely when and where you need it most. Feel the vibration of the earth. Strengthen your feet. Improve your posture. Enhance your natural movement with Vivo Barefoot. Made from 100% recycled and natural materials, they are as healthy for the planet as they are for you. Experience the freedom of barefoot movement with the protection from the sharp edges of a man-made world. Natural movement for your feet, sustainable choices for our world. Learn more at vivobarefoot.com/tetra and embrace your human nature.
Someone said it in the documentary about comparing the Beach Boys and the Beatles. Someone said, we were singers, they were players. And I thought that was a really interesting, astute way to look at it. I think it's really accurate.
Yeah.
You guys started as singers and then became a band, but you always sang together.
We always sang together family style, yeah. And then when we made the first record, it was a snare drum, a stand-up bass, and a guitar. That's it. That was the track. So you're right. We were singers. And other people were playing their ass off since they were 10 years old or whatever.
Yeah, and it really is apples and oranges. It's an interesting way to think about it. Did you feel like you had peers making music, or did you feel you were on an island doing your own thing?
That's a really interesting question. Probably the Mamas and Papas might have been a peer.
They were great.
Yeah, and they had harmonies.
Yes.
They didn't have the blend we had, but they definitely had
had something.
Music and harmonies, great songs. I mean, the lyrics, come on, California Dreaming.
Unbelievable.
That's fucking
beautiful.
Great song.
Monday.
We do our own version. We did a video of it in a church, and I stopped along the way. I stopped into a church, I passed along the way.
Yeah.
I got down on my knees, I pretend to pray.
Yeah.
Fucking great lyrics. And the preacher likes the cold. He knows I'm going to stay.
Yeah. Great song.
John Phillips, yeah. So.
Did you know him?
Yes. In fact, the melody of Kokomo, which is said to be our biggest hit single, the melody of the verses was by John Phillips. off the Florida Keys, there's a place called Kokomo. That's where we used to go to get away from it all. That's what he wrote. I said, hold on. That's where we used to go. Sounds like some old guy lamenting his lost youth. That's where you want to go. That opens it up to,
Aspirational.
Yes. And so that's my only contribution to the first verse. But then I came up, Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, want to take you, Bermuda, Bahama, come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego, baby, why don't we go? So I came up with the chorus because the melody, as sweet as it was, it didn't have a groove to it. So I did the R&B thing, Aruba. And you know what? The impulse of that is Smokey Joe's Cafe.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. At Smokey Joe's Cafe.
Yeah.
Aruba,
Lieber and Stoller.
Jamaica, ooh, I want to take you. Yeah. Dove right back into the R&B groove, which is what I listened to constantly when I was in high school.
Did you like doo-wop as well?
I love it. Yeah. Barbara Ann was kind of a doo-wop, right?
Yeah. Tell me about the album that has Barbara Ann on it.
Uh-huh.
It sounds like acoustic guitar.
It is.
I love that
It's our
album.
party album.
Yeah.
We didn't even conceive of it being a hit, but the promotion man for the East Coast for Capitol Records took it off the album and got it played in Worcester, Mass, and then it got it played in Boston, and it got it played everywhere. And it became a significant hit for us.
It's a great
In
song.
January, it came out with us in late '65 because we needed to do something to give us more time to develop the Pet Sounds album like Brian wanted to do it. He needed more time to do all those great tracks and with all the Wrecking Crew guys and stuff like that. Yeah. So I suggested, let's do a party album and just take a bunch of the songs we liked doing. So we did a Beatles song, a Bob Dylan song. And Barbara Ann was among those songs.
Yeah. Such a great album. I love that album.
It's just fun, we're just doing a bunch of songs we
But you
like.
can feel the spontaneous camaraderie. Like you feel the fun.
The camaraderie was Dean Torrance, who was with Jen and Dean. They did Surf City, right?
Yeah.
He came to the session and sang the high part with Brian. So we had two totally great falsettists on that.
Did Brian always sing falsetto?
Mm-hmm.
From the beginning?
He could hit. You'd probably listen to the lead of "Don't Worry, Baby."
Yeah.
Unbelievable. What a great.
And even before the Beach Boys, when you guys would sing together, he would always sing harp.
He would sing the high part on
Always.
whatever, like for freshmen.
Yeah.
He would sing the high part. I'd sing the little part. And then Carl would sing her, and Al would sing her. So yeah.
And would you guys sing Everly Brothers songs too?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Loved the Everly Brothers.
Amazing.
And so did the Beatles, too.
Yeah.
It's an interesting, similar inspirations for both of us. Chuck Berry and Everly Brothers. That's 2/3 of 100%. Right there.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah.
And that was the Beach Boys. The fun is Chuck Berry.
Yep.
And the concept was every kid wants to borrow the car and go cruising. So the girl tells her dad, I'm going to go to the library, but she has other plans, actually.
Yeah.
So but it's just a vignette of whatever was going on at that age when you get your driver's license and you want to cruise.
What was the first car song, the first hot rod song you guys did? Do you remember?
409.
Great record.
Yeah. And we had what you call double-sided hits there for a while because they would play Surf and Safari and then they'd turn it over and play 409. And that went over really well in a lot of parts of the country where they didn't know from surfing or anything.
Yeah.
And all over the Midwest and the South, the 409, Shut Down, Little Deuce Coupe, I Get Around,
Great.
Fun.
Great songs.
Oh, yeah. And I was involved in the lyrics of all those songs, except Deuce Coupe. I didn't do anything. That was a guy named Roger Christian, who was a DJ in L.A., who was a gearhead, So, yeah. Yeah.
So cool. What do you remember about the Pet Sounds era?
I remember doing the song Wouldn't It Be Nice, and we would do this one pass. This is one section, maybe 25, 28 times.
Wow.
And I started calling Brian dog ears because he heard shit that no other human being would.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to do it again. I said, it was perfect. why do we have to do this again? He says, no, I just looking for a different feel or something. So we do it again. We did that a lot with several of the songs, that called for the backgrounds to be perfect. And there's a box set of the Pet Sounds album where they just have the tracks, and there's one CD that has just the vocals. And you listen to that and it says, oh boy.
You understand why.
Yeah. And
it's unbelievable.
And when you listen to the tracks, I said, who the fuck came up with those woodwinds like that? Brian.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't have to go that far, did he? He just did.
It's so beautiful.
He's brilliant at that point in time.
Yeah. So beautiful. Mm-hmm. You guys have put out either box sets or repackages that are extensive and amazing. There was one a couple of years ago of Surf's Up. Mm-hmm. It's mind-blowing. Yeah. I listened to it 1,000 times.
Come on, really?
Seriously. And it's hours and hours of music.
The master is listening.
No, it's hours and hours of music, but it's so beautiful. How did the idea come to start doing these expanded?
Idea is, well, the thing is, there are a lot of albums that came out that at a period of time where we weren't selling very much product, and yet the feeling was that there's a lot of good stuff on some of those albums, like the Holland album and Surf's Up album, stuff like that. So why not repackage them, put them out, and they've been remastered and different things and stuff. So it gives a person a chance, if they're interested, into diving a little deeper into stuff that wasn't as well known.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, our Sounds of Summer album sold about 4 million copies in the U.S., which is pretty good. This is the 50th anniversary of the Endless Summer album, which came out in 1974. That's fucking amazing to have a 50th anniversary of an album that came out in
of a greatest hits.
And we're doing about 17 of the songs, or the 20 songs on the double album.
Yeah. Tell me the story of the Endless Summer album, because I remember when it came out, it felt like it renewed the Beach Boys.
It did. It absolutely did, because Endless Summer, the same album came out in Great Britain. It was called 20 Golden Greats, and sold 1 million copies of a double album LP in Great Britain. That's a lot.
A lot.
It's like one every other house or something. And the thing is, they were songs that were done on Capitol Records. We were always, after that contract ended, we were with Reprise, Mo Austin, and that kind of thing. And then we did a couple of years of CBS. But they took all these songs and put them together, and they were going to call it the Best of the Beach Boys Volume 2 or 3 or something. I said, there is no such thing. I said, let's call it Endless Summer. After the Bruce Brown's movie, The Endless Summer.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, surfing songs, Endless Summer. It's not a best of. It's a new album. Two people who don't know of the Beach Boys.
Yeah. And it's a concept album,
it's
really.
It's a concept album that is new to the new record-aware person, which there are millions.
Yeah.
Between 60 to 74, there are millions of people that got into music. They were out of grade school or junior high or high school, and now they're really into
music
it.
Changed over those years a lot.
Yes.
It felt new again.
Yeah. Well, what's really amazing is we'll do those songs in concert, and there'll be children, preteens, teens, young adults, and great-grandparents. They'll enjoy the music together as a one big happy family, which is fantastic. That's a really neat thing to see, is the happiness that those songs evoke. We did a festival on the beach in Wildwood, New Jersey last summer. And this guy comes up to me afterwards backstage, and he says, my dad and I bonded over your music. My dad lost my dad in January of this year. And so that being here at that concert, you playing those songs, was like an emotional experience for me. That goes on these days, like by the millions, because people played our music, as these kids were growing up and going to college and whatever they did, and the parents move on, literally. And that was something like in our family, singing together and harmonizing with the multiple generations. got us started, and that whole vibe continues on in a mega type way with people all over the world.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Over the years, how much did you guys play outside of the U.S.?
Quite a bit. We and the Beatles were like, for foreign groups, we're right up there in Germany, you know. In England, we did really well, you know. We even had a #1 album in Spain, which is a repackage and stuff. We had fan letters from Russia, fan letters from China. I met a real estate agent from Iran who said we play your LPs at whatever the sea that they went to during the summer. I mean, so I had the Saudi ambassador to the United States in 1977, was it, in Washington, D.C., tell me that he had our cassettes in his Austin Healey when he was going to college in England. That was the ambassador from Saudi Arabia.
Amazing.
So you got people from all around the world and all these places that were, you know, not exactly perceived as friendly to the United States that have been fans of the Beach Boys.
And
Pretty
it
amazing.
always was perceived as American music. Not
Yes.
even just American music, California music.
Yeah, really.
It really was the sound of California.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people who wanted to come to California because of those songs.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
So tell me, over the history of the band from the beginning, what's the first gig you remember doing ever?
New Year's Eve, December 31st, 1961, our song Surfin' had been a decent-sized hit in California at that time. And on the show was the Rivingtons with Papa Oom Mau Mau, and Ike Turner and the Kings of Rhythm featuring the Ikettes. Tina Turner did this song, I'm Blue, Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo, gong, 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 yeah. And she was primordial. Blew my mind. Tina Turner was one of the Ikettes.
Is there a recording of that song? I've never heard that song.
Oh, no? Oh, sure, there's a recording, I'm Blue.
I'm Blue.
Let's
listen to it.
Okay.
Love listening to music.
She was just unbelievable live. Oh, my God.
Ladies and gentlemen, greet my friends, if you will. These are the Ikettes.
That's Tina.
Incredible.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Imagine hearing them live with the Kings of Rhythm and Ike.
Wow.
Yeah,
So that was your first show.
Yeah, that blew my mind. And we only did like 3 songs.
Yeah.
I said, hey, this is pretty good. $500, 3 songs. We do for $60 each or something like that. I don't know. We went back about 10 years later with it made in the many thousands. It's an improvement.
Yeah. How many people were at that show? Do you remember?
Maybe 1,000.
1,000. That's
It
a
was
pretty
a
big show
Richie-
for a first show.
It was a Richie Valens Memorial Dance and Show.
LMNT, Element Electrolytes. Have you ever felt dehydrated after an intense workout or a long day in the sun? Do you want to maximize your endurance and feel your best? Add Element Electrolytes to your daily routine. Perform better and sleep deeper. Improve your cognitive function. Experience an increase in steady energy with fewer headaches and fewer muscle cramps. Element Electrolytes. Drink it in the sauna. Refreshing flavors include grapefruit, citrus, watermelon, and chocolate salt. Formulated with the perfect balance of sodium, potassium, and magnesium to keep you hydrated and energized throughout the day. These minerals help conduct the electricity that powers your nervous system so you can perform at your very best. Element Electrolytes are sugar-free, keto-friendly, and great tasting. Minerals are the stuff of life. So visit drinklmnt.com/tetra and stay salty with Element Electrolytes. LMNT.
So up until this point, surf music had been purely instrumental.
Correct. The Ventures and Dick Dale and the Dale Tones, you know.
How many years would you say surf music was around? 2 or 3?
Yeah, that's it.
Pretty new sound.
Yeah, it was. And it was guitar driven, you know, which is great.
And do you know if surf music was big all over the country, or was it mainly a Southern California thing?
I don't know about all over the country, but it was big in Japan. The
That's
Ventures did
interesting.
really well in Japan.
That's interesting.
They still travel, not the original guys, they're not around anymore, but
How did the idea come to sing about surfing?
my cousin Dennis and I we'd go fishing, or we'd go to the Redondo Beach, and they're the surfers and the hodads, meaning they're the people that wore the Pendleton shirts and the T-shirts and the jeans and stuff, and talked a certain way, had a certain lingo. If the waves are up, they'd cut class and go to the beach, you know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so on the record, surfing, I got up this morning, turned on the radio. I was checking out the surf and sing to see if I would go. And when the DJ tells me that the surfing is fine, that's when I know my baby and I will have a good time going surfing. Bump, bump, dip, 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 dip.
Yeah.
So, yeah, which is a little R&B kind of a bump, bump, dip, 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 kind of doo-woppy thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we just were the first to make up a song about going surfing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, which became a phenomenal kind of thing. Then Surfing Safari followed that up. And then Surfing USA was really big. It was #1 or something. And I would look at the foreign charts and Billboard. We had Surfing USA would be in the top 10 in Israel, or South America, or Australia, or Norway, Sweden, or Denmark, and you know, that kind of thing. It's pretty fascinating to see our music from California showing up worldwide.
Amazing. And surfing was still a pretty new thing. And there weren't millions of surfers in the world. There were probably thousands.
Yes,
It was a small subculture.
yes, that's for damn sure.
Yeah. Probably you guys did more to spread surfing than anyone else, because even in places where there weren't waves, they could listen to your music.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And there's T-shirts, Surf Ohio. You know, there's this guy that just took it upon himself to do a Surf Ohio shirt, which he's been doing that for 40 years or more.
Wow.
Yeah.
if you look at the history of the band, do you think of it in chapters?
Well, there's definitely the original band. And then when Brian decided to go and not do the touring, but stay and do the recording and producing, recording, arranging, and all that comes along with that, there became two bands. So I don't know if you call it chapters, but it was just two bands. And then we've had different changes in the live band over the years. The most success we had record-wise, I think, in the 60s was Good Vibrations. I don't think there's any question about that. Pet Sounds was great. However, it wasn't, the record company didn't know how to promote it. It wasn't received as well in the marketplace. But with the people who are musicians or producers or anything to do with writers or anything to listen to the album, I said, wow, that's pretty cool.
And now it's considered one of the top albums in the history of music.
Rolling Stone magazine did a thing maybe 20 years ago, the top 500 albums of all time. Number one was Sgt. Pepper. Number two was Pet Sounds.
Amazing.
That ain't bad. It's
Not
pretty
bad.
good company.
Not bad.
One and two,
Yeah.
right up there on the top of 500 albums,
Yeah.
which is pretty amazing. Now, everybody has their own taste and appreciation of music, so it's going to vary, I think, according to what group of people you're going to. I mean, I think Marvin Gaye coming pretty high with a group of people who listen to that, his music. You know, I don't think we've ever sold as many singles as some people have, like Three Dog Night, Joy to the World, several million copies, you know.
Great song.
Yeah. And Creedence Clearwater had some amazing singles. And so they would do more numbers, I think, but we did okay. We had, 40 top, I don't know how many, top 40 records.
So you talk about being the studio band and there being the live band.
Right.
We think of that as being unusual for the Beach Boys, but if you think about it, the Wrecking Crew played on the Byrds albums,
Oh, yeah.
Simon and Garfunkel.
Mamas and Papas.
Yeah, most of the things that were coming out of California.
Even the Spectre stuff.
Yeah,
right?
the Phil Spector records. So they were the California house band for pretty much everybody.
They were, yeah. Huge.
I think the main difference was Brian deciding not to go on the road is the thing that was unusual.
Yeah.
But actually, he got to spend all the time working on the music, which was beneficial to you guys.
Yeah.
It was unusual, but it worked out.
Yeah, it was. And, you know, Glenn Campbell took his place for a few months.
And he was incredible.
Yeah. He was one of the greatest guitar players ever,
Yes.
you know, and self-taught
Yes.
from Arkansas.
And could sing.
He could sing his ass off, which obviously became very famous and did all those great songs about Phoenix and MacArthur's Park and all that stuff.
Yeah. How did the band change when Dennis passed away?
Well, the Dennis situation was a drag because he would go into rehab for one night. It doesn't work that way. And so he couldn't get up off the self-medication, I guess, the drugs or the alcohol. We had a road manager had to flush heroin down the toilet and when we went into New Zealand one year because they don't look kindly towards importation of those types of drugs in New Zealand. In Singapore, they have importation of drugs is punishable by death. That's kind of a deterrent to some people. I don't think McCartney would have taken his weed to Singapore.
Yeah. Didn't he go to jail in Japan?
In Japan, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he actually spent time in Japan. Yeah.
What was it like at that period of the band anyway? Was it difficult with Dennis's proclivities?
It was rough because we'd have to tell him, no, you can't come around here anymore. And so we had to get other people to play the drums.
Mm-hmm. So there were times where you would ask him not to come on tour?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he'd be drunk.
Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Couldn't do his gig.
And that's not right. You know,
No.
Everybody else is doing their part and he's not able to.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that we wanted to do that. It's just
No, of course.
we had to do that
Of course.
to protect the group.
Yeah. Was Carl a steady force in the band over the years?
For the most part. He went through some times where he was involved in some of those things he shouldn't have been.
Mm-hmm.
But he got up off of that and was a very stable force in the group. He was the band leader, musically speaking.
Yeah.
And I was always in promotions and figuring out where we're going to tour and what markets, like I alluded to earlier. So it was a good partnership because I knew that the songs were going to be perfectly played and sang, and I was able to commit a lot of time to songwriting and guiding the group in terms of the one-nighters and stuff. So somebody gave me an award in Detroit this last summer saying that we've done over 6,000 shows or something like that, the most of anybody.
Yeah.
We like what we do.
Yeah.
And I like doing these smaller theaters because they sound great, they look great, Economically, they're not as big as the amphitheaters and the festivals. There's huge festivals nowadays where we did Stagecoach and there was 80,000 people, they say, at our concert. The Stagecoach sold out, which is a huge festival. It sold out in advance, which is an amazing thing.
After Endless Summer, you guys were playing huge shows again.
Yeah, did very well.
Yeah. So tell me, from the peaks and valleys of the size of audiences you've played to over the years, just tell me the roller coaster ride.
We always try to do the best shows we can.
Of course.
No matter what the size and stuff.
Of course.
So I really don't identify so much which are bigger and the smaller shows, except to say that in July 4th in the mid-'80s, we did these shows in Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. We're in Philadelphia on July 4th. The Philadelphia Inquirer said we had 900,000 people in the streets of Philadelphia in front of where Sylvester Stallone had his statue. And then that was the afternoon. And the evening was Washington, D.C. with over 500,000 people.
And those would be on television, I remember.
Yes.
Amazing. How did those come about?
I came up with the idea.
It's a great idea.
I said, look, the United States has been good to us. The least we can do is celebrate July 4th and do a free concert.
Beautiful.
Now, a free concert is anything but free in terms of the cost of putting it on.
Yeah.
So we had Amway one year came up with a few $100,000 for the sound, the lights, the staging, all the transportation for all the different acts and stuff. Because we wouldn't do just the Beach Boys, although we headlined. We knew we weren't the only music out there, so we had the OJs one year.
Great.
We had Joan Jett one year.
Great.
We had Hank Jr. One year we even had Julio Iglesias sing Surfer Girl with us. We did the backgrounds for an album he did called Bel Air or something. He did an album, and we sang the Air That I Breathe, which is...
Great song.
Yeah, it's nice. And we were playing some of our songs in the studio, and he said, who did these songs? Well, Brian and I did those songs. And so he was impressed, So we got him to sing Surfer Girl with us, and he did one of the songs from his album as well. And we introduced him to over 500,000 people.
Tell me about each band member. From childhood, tell me about each guy.
Okay, well, Dennis never touched a drum set before he started, but he learned the drums right off the bat, which is great. And he wasn't Gene Krupa, but he did the 2 and 4 down, one, boom, boom. I mean, he was good. A lot of energy and charisma and stuff. The girls loved him. Alan Jardine was the one who played rhythm guitar. Carl Wilson played lead guitar. For a while, Alan left the group after Surfin', and we signed Surfin' Safari with a fellow named David Marks, who played rhythm guitar, and Carl played lead. So it was Brian, Dennis, and Carl, Mike, and David Marks signed the Capitol Records contract, and David was with us for about 4 albums. And then my Uncle Murray didn't like the fact that his parents, he was only like 14 or 15 at the time while we were doing this, and his parents were very watchful for him, and my Uncle Murray didn't like that because he wanted to have his way with his group, And we fired Uncle Murray Brian and I did. And his way of getting even with me was because he was administrating the publishing, and he didn't put my name as writer on Help Me Rhonda, I Get Around.
All the songs you wrote
Be
the
True to Your
words.
School, Little Saint Nick.
Yeah.
Surfing USA was the biggest ripoff of it all. But yeah.
Tell me about the conversation you and Brian had deciding to fire Murray. That's a big deal because he's Brian's dad.
Yeah, it was not easy. But Brian wanted to do his music a certain way, and his father would come in and say, "Oh, do it a different way." You know,
He was getting in the way.
Yeah, he was interfering with the sound that Brian was hearing that he wanted to put on record. And so it became a conflict creatively. In addition to Murray was not a very nice, friendly guy, you know. So we did in fact fire him as our manager, but he hung on to the publishing, and he sold it.
Do you remember the conversation where you guys fired him?
Yeah.
What was it like?
It was tough. It was not fun, but we just told him flat out, you know, we want to go our own direction musically, and we don't think you understand or are capable of letting us do what we want to do. So it was a decision that had to be made, you know, in order to do the records that we quickly thereafter did.
In a world of artificial highs and harsh stimulants, there is something different, something clean, something precise. Athletic nicotine. Not the primitive products found behind convenience store counters. Not the aggressive buzz that leaves you jittery, but a careful calibration of clean energy and focused clarity. Athletic nicotine. The lowest dose tobacco-free nicotine available. Made entirely in the USA. No artificial sweetener, just pure, purposeful elevation. Athletic nicotine is a performance nootropic. Athletic nicotine is a tool for shifting mindsets. Athletic nicotine is a partner in pursuit of excellence. Slow release, low dose, gradual lift, sustained energy, soft landing, inspired results. Athletic nicotine, more focus, less static. Athletic nicotine, more clarity, less noise. Athletic nicotine, more accuracy, less anxiety. Athletic nicotine, from top athletes pushing their limits to artists pursuing their vision. Athletic nicotine offers the lift you've been looking for. Learn more at athleticnicotine.com/tetra and experience next level performance with Athletic Nicotine.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
When you were starting, the different members of the band, how were people's tastes the same and how is it different?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, Alan Jardine really liked the folk music. Brian fell in love with the Four Freshmen. He would sit at the piano for hours and break down those harmonies. And so he would have those harmonies in his head, and he would, here's the bass, here's the notes above that and the middle two parts, and he would sing the high part. So he would sit at the piano and break it all down, and he had that amazing falsetto. He had a great lead in natural voice too, you know. Carl, of course, had a beautiful voice, could blend with the best of them, and a great lead. He did Wild Honey and Darlin' and Good Vibrations leads, stuff, God only knows. So he was absolutely amazing. Al sang lead on Help Me Rhonda, which went to #1. I wrote the lyrics and Brian did the preponderance of the music. We worked on the harmonies together. Dennis has his own style and own type of music and stuff that he did. It was quite emotional. And in fact, John Stamos, our actor friend, chose to do the song Dennis wrote called Forever on the episode where Uncle Jesse got married on Full House, and we backed him up on Forever. And if he comes out and does concerts with us, which he likes to do,
amazing,
we back him up, and he sings that song. You know, people love it.
How do you decide who would sing lead on a song?
Often it was the range of the song, and of course, like I don't have particularly high voice, but if Brian and I wrote a song together, quite often I would end up singing the lead. Like Brian had a period where he didn't get out of bed very often. He was just isolated. And so I went over to his house one day, and this is regarding Do It Again, 1968. And I got him, took him down to the beach, walked around a little bit, came back. I remember going back to my house and sitting at the piano, and in about 15, 20 minutes, we had that song carved out. He came up with the concept, wrote the lyrics, sang the lead. He did the track, along with Carl and stuff. At the studio we'd put in his house in Bel Air. So we didn't want him out, and at that point in time, it wasn't a good idea to have him out in Hollywood in the streets and stuff. He would stop people in Bel Air and stop cars and ask them if he could borrow a cigarette.
Wow.
Yeah, he was, doing a lot of cocaine. And
Do you think bringing him to the beach sparked the inspiration for the song?
oh, absolutely, yeah, and we just got on the piano and it came up with it in no time and recorded it, and it, like I said, it went to #1 in England, which was good. I mean, not as high in the U.S. because we were at the end of our tenure there, and they weren't trying too hard with us. But they tried okay in '74 with Endless Summer album. It came back around.
Yeah. Tell me more about writing lyrics, about any times you can think of where you would have the concept in advance, let's say.
The concept in advance. We did a show at a place called the Lagoon, which is a place in Salt Lake City, which is a theme park. And we were very popular there. We did a show to open the season, one in the middle of the season, and a show to close the season. So for a couple of years there, we'd go 3 times a year, all during the summer. And so this one time we'd played there, and I said to Brian, we got to do a song about a girl who borrows her dad's car and says she's going to go to the library, but in fact, she goes cruising. That was the birth of Fun, Fun, Fun. So, and I said, it's got to start with the Chuck Berry style of guitar intro. So Carl did, so that was a case of the concept
Came first.
Came before the song. And then Brian got busy with Carl and in the studio and came up with the track, and I sang the lyrics. I finished up the lyrics, sang them, and he did that amazing falsetto part ooh, at the end, which is mind blower. I always thought that was a fantastic part. So there's that. Then another time, November of 1964, it was November 22nd or so. It was, he had moved out of his family home because the contentious between his dad and himself and stuff. So he rented a house not too far away, a couple miles away, and I went and joined him for a songwriting session. He came up with this beautiful melody, a haunting melody, and I came up with the lyrics to a song called The Warmth of the Sun, which is a really beautiful ballad. And we probably stopped writing at about 2 a.m. And the next day, we were awakened that President Kennedy had been taken to the hospital in Dallas. Yeah, so when we were writing it, he had to have been in Dallas. It was the early morning hours, the last day he was alive. And so it was an eerie feeling in that music. What I got out of the feeling of it was the loss of some love, meaning you were in love with somebody, they didn't feel the same way anymore. Maybe they had at one time, but they didn't feel it anymore. So it was never going to happen. And yet, in spite of the fact that it's really screwed up, terrible, disappointing feelings, at least you had felt that euphoria that comes along with that kind of feeling of being in love. And so that was trying to take a negative and look at it positively. So I wrote lyrics to go with that, the mood and the feeling of it. And we didn't change any lyrics because of what happened. We've recorded about a month later, but the emotion was there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's listen to that song. I
The
love that
warmth
song.
of the sun.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
What good is the dawn that grows into day? The sunset at night, or living this way. For I am the warmth of the sun within me at night, the love of my life. She left me one day. I cried when she said, I don't feel the same way. Still I am the warmth of the sun within me tonight. I'll dream of her arms, and though they're not real, just like she's still there, the way that I feel, my love's like the warmth of the sun, it won't ever die, it won't ever
Incredible song.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Incredible song.
Yeah.
What do you remember about recording that?
Just that it was done January 1 of 65.
Wow. When you would do the harmony vocals, would all of you stand around one mic? How would you do it
I would
typically?
be on my own mic. The other guys would be on their mic if it's doing backgrounds. And whoever's going to do a lead, that's a
Would the
different
lead
story.
happen at the same time too?
I think what we did was, in that case, I think we did the backgrounds and they did the lead.
Backgrounds first.
I think that's what I recall.
Would it typically be the case on a song where there would be lead and backups that you do the backups first for the lead to sit on top of?
Yeah, pretty often. Yeah. But, I would sing on my own mic because I don't have volume in that range, but I have a resonance. Like it's a nice bass of the others. So I'd have my own mic. The other guys singing their more natural ranges. I'm singing low. I'm not singing the lead in that range.
Would there ever be songs where the lead would be sang at the same time as the harmonies in
Yeah,
recording?
Yeah, especially as technology grows, you can do whatever. Or maybe you just do a verse on the lead and then do the harmonies and then you finish it up,
I see.
later. It's all no set way.
Would you ever record music and vocals at the same time or rarely?
The only time I recall doing that is our Christmas album where we did half the albums with an orchestra. So you did it like Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin would, sang with the
Live
orchestra.
with the orchestra.
So we did that on a
Ooh.
few songs.
Was that a good experience,
Yeah,
singing
it
with
was
an
cool.
orchestra?
You was actually reading your notes. You know, I was able to read music because I studied piano a little bit. So
Mhm.
was never a good piano player, but at least I'd studied music and I could read the notes. So it was pretty neat.
Over the years, were there different factions in the band?
We used to take 2 jets
Yeah.
from one place to another. One was a smoking jet and one was a non-smoking jet.
So that's what made up the factions, the smokers and the non-smokers.
Smokers was a euphemism for those who were doing the dope
Oh, I see.
or smoke and pot or whatever.
I see.
And it could be cigarettes too, because,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, not everybody metabolizes cigarette smoke that well, you know?
Yeah. How do you think you escaped the root of drugs and alcohol?
Well, because of meditation, I think.
But
Because I
the
was
other
doing,
guys meditated too.
yeah, but they also didn't mind experimenting with all these other things.
Mhm.
I was fine with being relaxed and clear and energetic through meditation.
Mhm.
It's not like I never smoked any weed, but people would say, "Oh, this is really great shit." And I was saying, not really. It's the same as it always was. For me, it wasn't that attractive.
Mhm.
So I didn't want to graduate to anything else.
Understood.
Because you would see people who were doing LSD and they were acting really weird. And if they were doing a lot of coke, they were acting really wired. I'm already energetic enough, I think, just naturally. I was very athletic in high school. I ran cross country. 3 years of cross country. I was in the varsity cross country, captain of my team. I'd run 5 miles in the morning before breakfast.
Wow.
So I had some, what do you call it, competitive thing. And I didn't think being drunk or fucked up or stoned is you're going to put your best foot forward on stage. So transferring that competitive thing onto the stage, you want to do the best you can.
Mhm.
And you just can't if you're under the influence.
Do you remember the first time you guys played outside of the U.S.?
Australia is what I remember. Yeah. Roy Orbison was on the show with
Wow.
us. Yeah.
Great hearing him sing live.
Oh, yeah. He was an opening act for us.
Wow.
His last year he was touring before he passed away.
What a singer.
Oh, and a nice guy, too.
Yeah.
He really was a great singer.
Tell me what you remember about the Smile album situation.
I remember that was when the drugs was at the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. My cousin Brian was doing LSD and whatever else he was doing, because I wasn't there when they were doing it. And this guy, Van Dyke Parks, was involved with the lyrics and stuff. So I wasn't involved creatively with it, but I sang on all the songs I was asked to sing on, you know.
Yeah.
But I thought there was I call it acid alliteration. I just thought there was too much monkey business, as Chuck Berry would have said, for me to be involved with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was not a positive time and from my frame of reference. The tracks were fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It's the lyrics that I had a problem with and the behavior around it.
Do you think drugs changed Brian's chemistry?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Was he a different person before he took drugs?
Yes. He was very sensitive always, all the way through it. And he was compulsive and really, like, for instance, if you're obsessive about music, it'd turn out great. But if you're obsessive about drugs, there's a chance that your psyche is not going to survive, not without some, damage. And even Brian will say to this day, he says, don't do drugs, because he knows that he harmed himself.
Yeah.
He just did too much or too many. And you never know. I mean, it could have happened once or it could have happened over periods of time. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist for that matter, but he was so into the music, and it took him fantastic places. But those drugs, I think you can look at it, in terms of the timing of his being, I call him the Stalin of the studio, because he was absolutely the Führer in the studio. He was in command, and he was great at it.
Yeah.
And then after that Smile situation, he shelved the whole album. He didn't want it to come out. Bits and pieces, dribs and drabs came out over the years. And some of the tracks are really brilliant. But right now he's in a conservatorship because of the damage that was done back then.
Did you ever get to meet Eugene Landy?
Oh, yeah.
What was that like?
He was into what they called 24-hour therapy. He wouldn't allow Brian to talk to his mom, his brothers, his bandmates. He controlled his life totally, and he took plenty of money for the purpose of doing so. Yeah, so it was very egregious. And he had to be the producer. We were doing Kokomo, and we asked Brian if he wanted to be on the record. Well, Landy wouldn't let him be on the record unless Landy was a producer. And we had Terry Melcher produce that one. He did the Byrds and Paul Revere and the Raiders, and was very successful. And so we didn't need him. So Landy wouldn't let him participate unless we met his needs.
How was it working with Terry?
Great. It was really cool.
Did you know him for a long time?
Quite a while. Yeah. We were asked to do Kokomo for the Cocktail album soundtrack. Featured Tom Cruise and stuff. Like I said, I came up with the chorus. Terry came up with the bridge. Like, ooh, I want to take it down to Kokomo. We'll get there fast, and then we'll take it slow. That's where you want to go. So he came up with that. And when the director of the film heard the music, he said, this is the best song you've done since Good Vibrations. And I said, really? I mean, we're just doing it because we were asked to do this song for the album.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it went to #1, and it was very successful.
Incredible.
People sing along to it too, like because it's been on Full House. It's been for years now, and so all these kids sing along to it. I mean, kids from 10 to 30, 40.
It's amazing. Is it true that Brian had a sandbox in his house?
Yeah.
And
It was okay until the cats used it as a kitty litter box.
do you sing when you're not on tour?
I listen to my music with these ears because I have some hearing loss in certain ranges. And the antidote to that is to listen to your music so it keeps your sense of pitch right. So I'm doing that.
How would you say your relationship with music has changed over the course of your life?
Before we became a group, it was just a hobby. That was a family hobby, and we loved doing it. I think the love of harmonizing together was the impetus, the reason to get together, even though if you didn't 100% have the same lifestyle or agree with everybody's politics or anything like that, or religion or for that matter, you could harmonize together. And I think it's a life lesson, actually. You can harmonize together. So much of that negativity disappears and division and stuff. So I think the fact that we love the harmony and harmonizing together as a family carried through into our professional times. Who smoked, who didn't, who did drugs, who didn't. When we harmonized, no matter if it was Good Vibrations, I mean, Brian will talk about having smoked some pot and that got him thinking about California Girls, or he did something else and it helped him write something. I personally think that people are creative not because of, but in spite of. I think there's a jillion neurons going on mentally. I think you have plenty of creativity to uncover. Yeah. There's no limit to the possibilities. But music, to me, it's kind of interesting because we still have the same feeling about recreating the sound on stage. But we've noticed over the last 50 years that these songs actually mean something to people.
Tetragrammaton is a podcast. Tetragrammaton is a website. Tetragrammaton is a whole world of knowledge.
What may fall within the sphere of Tetragrammaton? Counterculture? Tetragrammaton. Sacred geometry? Tetragrammaton. The avant-garde? Tetragrammaton. Generative art? Tetragrammaton. The tarot? Tetragrammaton. Out-of-print music? Tetragrammaton. Biodynamics? Tetragrammaton. Graphic design? Tetragrammaton. Mythology and magic? Tetragrammaton. Obscure film? Tetragrammaton. Beach culture? Tetragrammaton. Esoteric lectures? Tetragrammaton. Off-the-grid living? Tetragrammaton. Alt spirituality? Tetragrammaton. The canon of fine objects? Tetragrammaton. Muscle cars? Tetragrammaton. Ancient wisdom for a new age. Upon entering, experience the artwork of the day. Take a breath and see where you are drawn.
Tetragrammaton.com